I want to begin with a question that goes much deeper than it may seem. Am I the person they truly love, or am I simply an option? That question can quietly consume someone. It rarely arrives as a dramatic thought. More often, it appears late at night, in the space between what you feel for them and what their behavior seems to confirm. You start examining every interaction, every moment of closeness, every withdrawal, trying to figure out where you actually stand in their life. And that question deserves more than a comforting answer. It deserves an honest one based on what avoidant attachment actually looks like, how it operates psychologically, and how an avoidant can behave differently when their feelings for someone run much deeper. Before getting into those differences, there is something important to understand. An avoidant person does not necessarily express love in the familiar way most people expect. Consistent availability, emotional openness, steady reassurance, and constant closeness are usually not the natural language of avoidant attachment, even when their feelings are strong. That is why both the person they deeply love and the person they see as an option can experience moments of genuine warmth. An avoidant may be attentive, affectionate, engaging, and intensely present with both. Then suddenly, they may become distant or emotionally unavailable. From the outside, these relationships can look surprisingly similar. That overlap is exactly what creates so much confusion. The real difference is not simply whether the avoidant shows warmth. It is the depth behind that warmth, and more importantly, what the relationship requires them to confront within themselves. Avoidants often operate from a kind of emotional conservation mode. They protect their energy, their independence, their vulnerability, and the internal space they have learned to control. When a relationship remains relatively shallow, the avoidant can participate without having to challenge those defenses. They can enjoy the person, spend time with them, flirt, connect, and even become affectionate, while still remaining safely inside their emotional comfort zone. But genuine love changes the equation. When an avoidant becomes deeply attached to someone, the relationship begins demanding things their usual defenses cannot easily provide. They may have to become more vulnerable. They may experience emotions more intensely than they expected. They may find themselves caring far more than they feel comfortable admitting. They may say things they normally would never say, make efforts they usually avoid, or behave in ways that conflict with their carefully maintained image of being completely self-sufficient. Those moments of going beyond their normal limits can reveal far more than their words ever will. The first major difference is comfort. With an option, the avoidant can often remain relatively comfortable. That does not mean they dislike the person or feel nothing. They may genuinely enjoy their company, find them attractive, appreciate their personality, and even feel emotionally connected to them. But the relationship stays within a range their nervous system can manage. Because of that, the avoidant may actually appear more consistent with an option. They can remain reasonably available because the relationship is not forcing them into emotional territory that activates their strongest defenses. The person they truly love may experience something very different. They may receive intense closeness followed by sudden distance. A period of warmth may be followed by withdrawal. Just when the connection seems to become deeper and more meaningful, the avoidant may pull back. This can be incredibly painful because it looks like rejection. But sometimes the withdrawal is not happening because the feelings disappeared. It happens because the feelings became too powerful for the avoidant's emotional system to comfortably manage. That is one of the great contradictions of avoidant attachment. The relationship that matters most can sometimes produce the strongest push-pull behavior. The deeper the emotional stakes become, the harder the avoidant may work to regain control. They move closer because they want the connection, then retreat because the connection suddenly feels threatening. They reach for intimacy and then become frightened by what that intimacy requires from them. This does not mean every unstable relationship is secretly a great love story. Avoidance should never be used as an excuse for inconsistency, emotional neglect, or harmful behavior. But when this specific pattern exists alongside genuine emotional investment, the intensity of the push-pull can reveal how much the relationship is challenging their defenses. The second difference appears in the quality of their attention. Avoidance can give attention to many people, but attention itself is not enough to tell you what you mean to them. You have to look at what kind of attention they give. With an option, their attention may remain relatively broad and casual. They enjoy the person's presence. They remember certain details. They notice things about them. They may be affectionate and interested, but the attention stays within safe emotional boundaries. With someone they genuinely love, however, their attention often becomes much more personal and emotionally loaded. They notice details that reveal how closely they have been paying attention. They remember things you assumed they had forgotten. They become affected by your presence in ways they cannot easily explain. The difference is not simply how much attention they give. It is what that attention reveals about how deeply you have entered their emotional world. And that is where the real distinction begins to emerge. They are genuinely engaged in the conversation, and you can feel that their interest is real rather than simply polite. But with the option that attention usually stays on the surface, they notice the version of you that you openly present, the personality, opinions, humor, stories, and qualities you naturally show other people. With the person they truly love, something changes. Their attention begins moving beneath the surface. They become drawn to the parts of you that are not immediately visible. Your contradictions, your private fears, your unusual joys, the way your inner world is structured, and even the things you reveal without realizing you are revealing them. They may notice the difference between what you say and what you actually mean. And because avoidants themselves often live with a distance between their inner feelings and what they outwardly express, they can become remarkably sensitive to that same gap in someone they deeply care about. This kind of attention often creates an unusually precise memory. They remember small things you mentioned casually. But it goes further than remembering. They begin noticing your emotional state before you explain it. They sense when something is wrong, even when you say you're fine. They respond to feelings you have not yet put into words. That level of emotional attunement can surprise the avoidant themselves because it represents an investment they never consciously planned to make. With an option, the avoidant notices you. With someone they truly love, they can find themselves unable to stop noticing you, even during the periods when they are desperately trying to create distance. The third difference becomes especially visible during conflict, and this is where people often misunderstand avoidant behavior. With an option, conflict is usually easier for the avoidant to manage. They can become calm, detached, logical, and emotionally restrained. They may step back, reframe the issue intellectually, or lower the emotional intensity until the situation feels manageable again. From the outside, that composure can look like they simply do not care, but often it is the avoidant functioning comfortably behind their emotional defenses. With someone they truly love, however, those defenses can become less reliable. The conflict may become messier. Their reactions may be stronger. Their carefully controlled composure can crack in small but revealing ways. They may say things they would normally keep hidden, react more emotionally than they intended, or become noticeably less predictable. That does not mean everything they say in those moments is healthy, or that every emotional reaction proves love, but it can reveal something important. The relationship has reached a place where their usual emotional management is no longer completely controlling their response. The person they see as an option rarely has enough emotional power to penetrate those defenses. The person they deeply love can. And when that happens, what comes through the cracks may reveal just how much the relationship actually matters to them. The fourth difference is what I would call a return to honesty. With an option, An avoidant can maintain a relatively polished version of themselves for a very long time. They can remain charming, capable, independent, composed, and emotionally contained. That version is not necessarily fake. It is simply carefully managed. It is the version of themselves they have spent years learning how to present safely.
But with the person they truly love,
that carefully constructed identity begins slipping. Not constantly, not perfectly, but often enough that a pattern eventually becomes visible. The wounded part of them appears. Their need appears. Their tenderness appears. Their fear appears. Sometimes they reveal something vulnerable without planning to. Sometimes they show obvious affection or emotional dependence that contradicts the story they usually tell themselves about needing nobody. And sometimes you simply notice that their presence feels different when the defenses temporarily disappear.
they seem more alive,
More exposed, more authentic, more like the person underneath everything they have built to protect themselves. Those moments are significant because the option usually receives the managed version consistently. The deeper self remains protected because the relationship does not create enough emotional pressure to force that deeper self forward. But genuine love can create that pressure. When the real person repeatedly surfaces around you, even briefly, it can be understood as something their psychology struggles to say directly. You matter to me more than I know how to comfortably handle.
The fifth difference may be the most important of all.
Sacrifice. Real, uncomfortable, ego-level sacrifice is difficult to fake over time. With an option, the avoidant may still be generous. They may give attention, time, affection, companionship, and genuine care. None of that necessarily means the connection is meaningless. But they generally do not have to surrender the things their identity depends on protecting. They do not have to seriously challenge their independence. They do not have to confront their deepest patterns. They do not have to repeatedly step outside the emotional boundaries that make them feel safe.
With the person they truly love, something different happens.
They begin giving up pieces of their comfort. Maybe they allow themselves to feel emotions they would normally suppress. Maybe they admit, even indirectly, that someone's presence has become important to them. Maybe they alter familiar patterns because losing the connection would cost more than remaining inside their comfort zone. These changes are rarely announced. An avoidant is not usually going to say, "Look how much I am sacrificing for you." Instead, you see it in the pattern.
You notice small departures from their usual self-protection.
You notice effort where there used to be avoidance. You notice moments when they choose connection, despite the discomfort it creates inside them. None of this excuses unhealthy behavior. Love does not make inconsistency harmless, and attachment does not mean you should tolerate being mistreated. But when genuine investment is present, these repeated sacrifices can become meaningful evidence that the relationship has reached somewhere deeper than the avoidant's normal comfort zone.
Now,
This is why the option relationship can be so confusing. The option may actually receive a version of the avoidant that looks easier to love. They may get someone who is attentive, pleasant, warm, available, and relatively consistent. The avoidant is not fighting an internal battle, so their best qualities can come forward naturally. Their intelligence, humor, charm, attentiveness, and emotional warmth can appear without triggering the defenses that emerge when the stakes become much higher. From the outside, the option might even look like they received the better version. But what they are receiving is the avoidant inside their comfort zone.
and comfort is not the same thing as depth.
The option gets the version of the avoidant that can function without being forced to grow. They receive warmth that does not require much emotional risk. They receive consistency because the relationship does not activate the fears that make consistency difficult. The person the avoidant truly loves often receives something much more complicated. They encounter the avoidant while that person is struggling with the reality of their own feelings. They see the withdrawal, The fear, the contradictions, the moments of vulnerability, and the small attempts to move beyond familiar defenses.
It can be much harder to experience.
But it can also reveal something far more significant. The relationship has reached a depth where the avoidant can no longer remain completely hidden behind the identity they created to protect themselves. And that is the distinction I want you to understand before you judge the relationship only by how easy or difficult it feels. So, after hearing all of this, the question that naturally comes up is, which one am I? I want to answer that honestly, and honesty means starting with something that may be difficult to accept. Sometimes, you simply cannot know for certain from inside the relationship.
I have seen incredibly intelligent and self-aware people remain confused about where they stood in an avoidant person's emotional world.
And that confusion makes sense. The outward behavior can overlap. An avoidant may show warmth, attention, affection, and connection in both situations. On top of that, avoidants themselves may not completely understand the intensity of what they feel. Their own inner conflict can make their behavior inconsistent, contradictory, and extremely difficult to interpret. So I am not going to give you some perfect formula that promises a definite answer.
Instead, ask yourself some honest questions.
When they were with you, did they ever move beyond the version of themselves that felt emotionally safe? I'm not talking about affection alone, because both relationships can contain affection. I'm talking about the moments that actually cost them something. Did they ever let their guard down unexpectedly? Did their emotions become stronger than they knew how to manage? Did they react in ways that seemed disproportionate because the relationship touched something much deeper? Did they make small sacrifices that clearly challenged their normal need for independence? And what about their withdrawal?
Was it simply their general tendency to keep people at a distance?
Or did the withdrawal become especially intense after moments when the relationship reached a deeper emotional level? Was it as though getting closer to you activated something inside them that they immediately needed to escape from? Then look at their attention. Did they merely enjoy the person you presented to the world, or did they seem interested in the person underneath it? Did they notice your subtle changes in mood? Remember tiny details you had forgotten mentioning? Understand things you never directly explained? Notice contradictions in your personality that most people would overlook?
And perhaps one of the most important questions, did they ever find their way back to you?
That return does not necessarily have to mean coming back and asking for the relationship again. Sometimes it appears indirectly, a small message, a quiet check-in, a seemingly insignificant attempt to reconnect, a moment when the emotional distance briefly gives way. These things cannot guarantee an answer, but they can give you information. And information grounded in reality is far more valuable than either false hope or painful assumptions. Because sometimes the truth is exactly what you wanted to hear, and sometimes it isn't.
Either way, knowing what is real gives you the ability to make decisions based on reality rather than on the version of the story you desperately want to believe.
But there is something even more important than determining whether you were the person they truly loved or simply an option. The deeper question is this: was the relationship actually honoring you? Was it meeting you at the level you deserve? Was it gradually moving, even imperfectly, toward a form of love that two people could actually live inside together? Because being the person an avoidant loves most does not automatically mean you are receiving a healthy relationship.
You can be the person who awakened their deepest emotions.
You can be the person who reached parts of them nobody else reached. You can be the person they think about, miss, fear losing, and struggle to let go of. And they can still be unable to give you the relationship you need. Love does not automatically create emotional availability. Knowing that someone deeply loves you does not guarantee consistency. It does not guarantee communication. It does not guarantee presence. It does not guarantee the simple, ordinary acts of care that make a relationship feel safe and mutual. An avoidant can have genuine, powerful feelings for you and still be emotionally incapable of meeting your needs right now. And understanding that does not mean you have to accept less.
Their inability to give you what you need does not suddenly make your needs unreasonable.
You are not obligated to remain in a relationship simply because you discover that the other person truly loves you. You are allowed to recognize their feelings and still choose yourself. In fact, there is something incredibly powerful about leaving with the understanding that, yes, I was genuinely loved, and I still chose what was healthier for me. That is very different from leaving while believing you were never important, never special, or never truly loved. One truth gives you clarity. The other leaves a wound that can follow you into your future relationships. You deserve the truth, even when the truth is complicated.
So don't measure your place in an avoidant's heart by warmth alone.
Look for the things that actually cost them something. Look for the moments when their defenses failed, when their carefully controlled identity slipped, when their attention went deeper than the surface, and when their behavior revealed a struggle they could not easily explain. That is where the information lives. Learn to recognize those signs, but don't use them as an excuse to tolerate what hurts you. Don't turn someone's hidden feelings into a reason to accept an emotionally unavailable relationship. Use the truth to understand what happened. Use it to separate what was genuinely felt from what was actually expressed. And most importantly, use it to understand your own worth.
Because if those deeper signs were truly present, then perhaps you were not imagining the connection. Perhaps what you felt was real. Perhaps you mattered to them far more than their behavior was ever capable of communicating. And sometimes, that is the painful paradox of loving an avoidant. You can mean everything to someone who still doesn't know how to give you everything you need. But knowing that can finally free you from having to choose between two painful stories. They never loved me, or because they loved me, I have to stay. There is another possibility. They loved you deeply, and you still chose yourself. That is not rejection of love. That is choosing a love that can actually meet you in the real world.